présenté par Blackmagic Design, en partenariat avec CEV.
Donc, notre passage au NAB, en fait, c'est notre pèlerinage aussi habituel chez HDbT. Cette année, plusieurs nouveaux produits dans la série des Frame Synchronizers, le FS4. C'est vraiment dans la ligne du FS3, sauf que maintenant, le FS4 peut faire 4 channels de 4K, UHD, SD, donc Frame Synchronizer, donc on peut faire du up-down convert. Et au niveau des connecteurs, chez Aja, on va dans plusieurs types de connexions. Donc, qu'est-ce qu'on a à l'arrière? C'est qu'on a bien sûr du SDI. On a aussi des SFP qui nous permettent d'arriver soit en fiber ou en HDbT. Donc, le FS4 est capable de gérer du SDI, vraiment de la vidéo, ou que ça vienne en fibre ou que ça vienne en format IP, en streaming. Donc, nouvel appareil, 4 channels, le FS4. On continue avec les nouveautés chez HDbT. On convertit à peu près tout ce qui est système déjà existant vers du HDbT. Donc, le corps vide, qui est vraiment leur grosse interface multicarte de capture, de playback. On a une nouvelle carte HDbT pour entrer dans le système et sortir. Aussi, ils ont annoncé qu'ils allaient travailler en Open Gear, qui est un nouveau système c'est des convertisseurs bancaires. Donc, on achète un boîtier et on met des cartes selon les convertisseurs dont on a besoin. Donc, on a maintenant du Embed d'Embed AES et du reclocking aussi, comme c'est un DA qui refait la synchronisation des flux vidéo. Des updates aux convertisseurs. Donc, on a parlé souvent du HDP, c'est un convertisseur qui permettait de brancher un écran en DVI à la sortie SDI, donc c'est un convertisseur SDI à DVI, mais on est maintenant au HDP 3 qui permet de encore monter en résolution et de prendre du 3G SDI. Sinon, si on va aller en 4K, c'est le i5. Le i5, maintenant, c'est le i5 4K+, qui permet de faire du 60p en 4.2.2. Donc, ça peut prendre jusqu'à 4 fois SDI vers du HDMI en 4K 60p. C'est un petit convertisseur. Pour les Kona, donc les cartes de capture, on a une Kona qui est dédiée aux vidéos IP. Donc, c'est 2 entrées qui sont capables de prendre jusqu'à 4 flux vidéo, en fait. Donc, on est capable, avec une entrée, d'envoyer 4 flux et de dire, bien, ce flux-là, on l'enregistre donc indépendamment. Un nouveau produit, total nouveau produit chez Aja, c'est le HELO. C'est un streamer. En fait, ça prend un flux HD ou 4K et ça va le convertir en stream qu'on peut envoyer soit sur un réseau IP, soit sur un service de streaming, ou qu'on peut enregistrer sur une carte SD à l'interne. Donc, c'est un environnement dédié, donc ça devrait fonctionner beaucoup mieux qu'un ordinateur avec un logiciel ou une carte. Et ça permet, en fait, soit de faire de l'événement ou même juste prendre une caméra de surveillance et de l'envoyer sur un réseau ou avoir accès à distance. Pour ceux qui ont bien aimé le T-Tap, qui était l'interface d'output Thunderbolt à SDI et HDMI, on a maintenant le U-Tap. Donc le T-Tap, c'était pour Thunderbolt Tap. On a le U-Tap qui est une interface, en fait, qui sont 2 interfaces USB 3. Une interface de sortie USB 3 pour le HDMI, une interface USB 3 pour le SDI. Donc, pour bien comprendre la transition, il y a beaucoup de compagnies qui vont passer au HDbT, qui vont passer aux vidéos IP. On va aller rencontrer, jaser un peu avec Bryce Button de HDbT, qui est au marketing, mais qui va nous expliquer c'est quoi les avantages de la vidéo IP, en fait, du mode de transport IP, versus le SDI ou le HDMI qu'on connaît et avec lesquels on est habitué de travailler. So we're at HDbT booth, and I'm with Bryce Button, and we're going to talk about you're moving more and more toward HDbT, IP-based video, and how is it an advantage with working in video right now? Why do you have to move in that direction?
Okay, so let's split those into the two different categories.
Okay.
So HDbT is something we started last year.
Yeah.
HDbT, for those who are not familiar with it, is not actually IP video. What it is it's a system that utilizes Ethernet cable. In other words, what we call category 5 or 6E.
Yeah, standard Ethernet cables.
And it's the standard cables. Yeah. And the advantage of that is that you have cables, of course, that are available everywhere. Yeah. And especially in the AV business where that type of stuff is big, hotels, houses of worship, that type of thing, it gives you great extension all the way up to 100 meters, which is like 300 feet.
So it's closer to SDI on that cable?
That's exactly it.
Oh, okay.
And so when we introduced RoboCam earlier this year, that's our little block camera, which in fact is on the booth watching us right now. And that's a 4K Ultra HD camera. And the point of it is that over a single cable, you can carry video, audio, and power over Ethernet. Yeah. So it's just gone in, for instance, with NHL, National Hockey League, and they're putting it in all the stadiums. So it's convenience. It's that high resolution you get with the Ultra HD chip. And we've introduced software for it at this show called Rover Control that'll be available soon. And it even allows you to do HD extraction from the Ultra HD image.
Okay, so grab an HD frame from...
Yeah, so you can do a virtual pan, tilt, and zoom. So very powerful stuff, but affordable, right? So that can utilize infrastructure that people have everywhere. Now, the IP transition is a much bigger deal. The whole industry has been looking at how to do it and how to do it successfully. Yeah. And the way we're trying to do that is do it as seamlessly as possible. So with Kona IP, it's another card in the Kona family. If you've ever worked with Final Cut and Adobe and Premiere, you've almost certainly run into our Kona cards at some point.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And they're the most flexible cards in the business. And it's no different with Kona IP. So Kona IP is our first card that deals with IP workflows. And what we're trying to do for you, the end user, is if you're working in Media Composer or you're working in Premiere, you don't want your experience to change and be too radical. That's kind of scary. So what we've done is brought out Kona IP, and you'll utilize the same drivers, our control panel, everything else, and you'll use the same plugins that we provide for Avid or for Adobe, etc., and just edit as you always have. Now, the significance of the transition is initially it's going to go through phases, right? So we're a part of all the 4 major alliances. That's Sony Live IP, it's NDI with NewTek, it's Aspen, which is largely EVITS driven, and then AIMS. And we joined AIMS because the AIMS Alliance is basically trying to help move this transition as smoothly as possible, get as many vendors on board as possible, because it's important for the interoperability. And in terms of the phase of the rollout, we're starting with what everyone's doing right now, which is called 2022-6. So this is basically taking SMPTE video and audio encapsulated in an IP stream.
Okay. So is IP video always compressed? You have to really compress it to make it go through that cable?
No, the 2022 is completely uncompressed SDI video. So for you as a user, it's the same experience as working with traditional SDI and a BNC. The advantage is on the card, there's 2 ports. You can go either way. You could actually do multi-input if you wanted to, multi-output. Because of its IP, it's flexible as to what you're doing there.
And as for synchronization, how does it work?
For the synchronization?
Yes.
Well, when you're in IP, you have things like what's known as FVC, forward error correction, to make things correctly align, make up for any packet loss, that type of thing. And that's the point, because to make this work successfully, you've got to have the same experience as you would for live broadcasts and everything else. Now, as time moves forward, there'll be different stages. So VSF, which is Video Source Foundation, and the transition path that AIMS is backing moves through something called TR04 first and then TR03. So that comes later this year, going into 2017. Okay. All you really need to know about that at this point is that with 4, it includes an AES standard, so you basically have audio disembedding. which people need to do for various purposes. As you move to 3, you're effectively getting into essences, which is streams of different types of items, and it allows you to start including auxiliary data. Alongside that, of course, there are going to be compression standards. So JPEG 2000 is very popular for broadcast.
Okay, it's broad in that sense.
Yeah, and we'll definitely be including JPEG 2000 moving forward. But there are other codec options and that type of thing.
Okay.
So it's very key with this card that we built it in such a way that there's large enough FPGA, which is where the programming happens, so that we can actually load future protocols, future codecs onto it, and we'll be, announcing news on those kind of items as you go forward.
Okay.
So you can invest today, you can have the experience you always had, and as the transition continues, we'll move you very smoothly through it.
Software updates, and I've seen you also created like IP cards for the core vid and other hardware you already had to like.
Yeah, so the Kona IP is available for developers, for third parties, and Vent users on the booth, etc. Core vid is simply the name for our line of developer cards. So it's available to developers, but it's also going to be available for retail, so that you can utilize it with our standard drivers.
Excellent. Yeah. So it's moving forward toward IP, and as IP connector, we've seen that you got SFP connectors and
10 gig. So it's 2 10 giggies cages, and we support pretty much standard receivers, transmitters, that kind of thing, or transceivers as you generally call them if you're going both directions. And on our website, you'll see if you go look at the Kona IP, there are links to a couple of third parties where we test them, we know they're good, so off you go.
And you also have converters that will bring like standard video to the IP well.
On the IP side for that right now, we have a tech preview here for a little mini converter that basically takes JPEG 2000, otherwise known as J2K, and it decodes it. And it outputs it to HDMI, which just means you could plug into a network and simply hook up to an HDMI monitor. So obviously there will be a lot more products and items that come forward, but for the majority of editors and that type of thing, you'll be looking at the Kona IP.
And when you're working in IP, is it hard to do some video processing on that video? You have to like transcode it to some RGB values, or
no? That's covered within the SDI stream.
Okay.
Okay. So you're, as I said, it's like having an SDI connector. Your experience there is not going to be any different than it is today.
And as for routing, is it like you're moving toward like Ethernet switches?
Yeah.
Stuff like that?
Yeah, so you can certainly go into switcher. You can go into standard video switches now that have started to accept, IP streams. So you got a lot of choice. I mean, that's the whole thing about IP is it's a very open world. What we're trying to do, and by joining things like AIMS, is to make you move through that literally as smooth as it can be. And we really think this is going to be a great solution for people that have been a little scared of what this transition might mean. You can move through it fearlessly with the Kona IP card.
Great. Well, Bryce, thank you for the IP primer.
Yes.
So now we kind of understand it a bit more, and
Good.
It's going to be great.
Well, thank you very much, and I hope your viewers really enjoy it. And I encourage them to go to HDbT.com and look at our NAB webpage and read up on all the products. So it's just www.HDbT.com/NAB.
We'll put a lower third for that, you're sure.
Yeah,
it's going to be right here.
Right here. Right. Thanks again.
Thanks a lot.